Welcome back to Woodchuck Creations. I'm Chuck, and today I'm going to make a drop station table with a built-in receptacle. When we moved here a couple of years ago, we put this basket in the corner of our kitchen counter, and it was to just drop our keys in. Well, since then, it's started to collect other things like cords for chargers, wallets, flashlight holders, business cards, headphones. Directly on the other side of this wall, there's a little corner that doesn't serve much of a purpose, and I want to build a table that stores some of the stuff that's on the counter, and I might put a key rack up on the wall right here. We'll see how it turns out on the table. So this area is 14 inches by 28, so I want to make it just smaller than that, but this plan can be used for virtually any size around that. First step is to cut the legs for the table, and I'm going to use 2x2s for this. Now I have a stop block system set up on my miter saw station to where I can set the length at 29¼ inches, which is what I'm going to use for the legs, and make repeatable cuts to the same length. The next thing I need to do is cut several different pieces of wood of different size to 9 inches, and these are for the sides front to back. Since I have to cut a 1x8, I don't have the capability to do that on my miter saw, so I'm going to set up a manual stop block on my crosscut sled to 9 inches and cut all those pieces to that length. These pieces of 1x8 are going to be the sides, and they're going to connect the front legs to the back legs, and I'm going to do that with pocket screws. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill the pocket holes in them, and I'm also going to drill the holes to connect the top. I'm going to add these 1x2s on the sides, and this is just aesthetic, it's not structural. So I'm going to glue them on and go ahead and brad nail them in. I have these two pieces for the sides. Now the next step is to connect them to the legs. Now I'm going to clamp them down to my table and connect them with pocket screws. I have the sides mostly put together. Now I need to add a stretcher down here, which is going to be a support for the bottom shelf. To make sure the shelf is level, I'm going to go ahead and use this cutoff as a spacer to mount the stretchers for the bottom shelf. Now we have both sides finished. Now we just need to cut the pieces that connect them. These pieces are all cut to size. Now we need to make some pocket holes in them and connect the sides together. Now that we have the pocket holes drilled, the next step is to connect the sides. So I found the effective way to do this is to do one side and then do the other side. You can do the top and then work down. Either way works. So somehow this particular leg is a little bit off. It's a little bit long, so I'm just going to trim it down a little bit. Perfect. Next step is to cut the piece for the bottom shelf. I have this piece of poplar that is actually right on the right length. I just need to rip it down to the 9 inches to fit in the center. Perfect. So the piece I just cut is going to be the bottom shelf, but instead of having to cut around the legs, I went ahead and cut some 1x2s that I can put in there and connect them down, and it will all fit together. Since this is going to be painted, it doesn't matter that it's 2 different types of wood. We have all the pieces cut for the bottom shelf. I'm going to glue them in place and secure them with brad nails until the glue dries. In addition to the glue and the brad nails, I'm just going to go ahead and clamp them down real quick. While this dries, I can go ahead and work on the drawer. The next step is to make the drawer, and you take the distance between the sides here, which is 20 and 7/8, and then you got to subtract the drawer slides, which is right at 1 inch. So we're going to use 19 and 7/8 inch for the drawer. For the inside of the drawer, I'm going to use this 1/2 inch by 3.5 inch poplar, and then I will attach a drawer front to it. I'm going to go ahead and set up a stop block here again at the table saw on the crosscut sled to cut the pieces for the drawer. Next, I'm just going to use a piece of MDF for the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that to size. So I have all the pieces for the drawer here. I'm just going to go ahead and glue them together and brad nail them. I'm not going to use screws or anything. That should be fine for what this drawer is going to hold. And if it doesn't hold, I'll just build a new one. I'm going to use the bottom to kind of square it up as a template. And I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom, just put some glue and some brad nails on. I'm going to go ahead and let this glue dry and make the drawer front. I have a piece of 1x pine here. I think this is a 1x6 that I'm going to use for the drawer front. And I have this project panel that I'm going to use for the top. I'm going to go ahead and cut those down to size at the table saw. And for the drawer fronts, I always measure these to leave an 1/8 inch around each side, so I cut a 1/4 inch short on both the length and the width. For the top of the table, I bought this little outlet receptacle with some USB ports and some regular plugs. I'm going to mount it in the top so we can charge our devices there. I'll go ahead and put a link to this in the description, as well as the drawer slides and some of the other materials I used for this project. Before I sand and paint the table, I'm going to go ahead and fill the holes left by the brad nailer, and I'm going to do this by mixing some sawdust with some wood glue and putting it in the holes. While the wood filler is drying, I'm going to go ahead and attach the drawer slides to the drawer. Now I'm going to do this by lining up the front of the drawer slide with the front of the drawer and carefully retracting the drawer slide so I can screw it into the drawer. Next, I connected the part of the drawer slide that attaches to the base of the table by setting it on a piece of MDF scrap and attaching it with screws. Once I completed this process for both sides, I test fit the drawer and it turned out perfect. The next step is a necessary but my least favorite part of any project, which is sanding and painting. Now that the paint's dry, I'm going to go ahead and attach these little feet on the bottom so it doesn't scratch the floor. Now we need to attach the top, and I'm going to do that using pocket screws that I pre-drilled when I made the sides. I'm going to make sure it's evenly centered on the table, and then I will go ahead and clamp it down. Now that we have the top secured in place, it is time to put the drawer front on. I have it set on some flat bar here just for spacers, and it is centered in the space that it goes in. Now that I have this aligned where I want it to be, I'm going to secure it to the drawer with a clamp here, and then I will drill through these holes to connect the drawer to the drawer front. At this point, the drawer front is connected. Now I need to eventually take this out, but while this is in the right spot, I'm going to go ahead and secure it from the back with some screws. Now I can remove this, and I'll still be able to use these holes for the hardware. The drawer front is attached. Now we need to make sure it fits correctly. Perfect. All right, everything's done. Now let's go put it in place and see how it looks. All right, here it is. It looks great, and it clears up our counter. We have the drawer where we can put our keys and cords in, and we can also bring the cords out to charge electronics. That's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and go ahead and give me a thumbs up and click subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thanks for watching. Now these pieces are all cut. See? You had no faith. No faith! Haha! Thanks. Alright, turn that thing off.